recap tonight's breaking developments in the BART shooting trial.
We are extremely disappointed with this verdict. This is a true compromise verdict that does not truly and accurately reflect the facts.
And this, as you're seeing now, the reaction outside the courthouse in Los Angeles, where former BART police officer Johannes Mehserle was found guilty late today. Guilty, but not guilty of murder.
Now, after deliberating for less than 7 hours, the jury convicted Johannes Mehserle of involuntary manslaughter in the death of an unarmed BART passenger last year. Plus, there was an additional charge of using a gun in the commission of a crime.
And as we talked about just a minute ago, he was led away in handcuffs. This is the courtroom sketch of that moment after being found guilty of involuntary manslaughter for shooting Oscar Grant at the Fruitvale BART station early New Year's Day in 2009. He said he thought he had drawn his taser, not his gun.
Cecilia Vega and Laura Anthony have been covering that trial in Los Angeles. That's where the trial was moved to because of publicity. And Cecilia, you were in the courtroom for the verdict.
We were, Cheryl, and really you just mentioned this scene of Mehserle being led away in handcuffs. That was definitely one of the more striking images out of the courtroom today. Let's just recap, though, this timeline on this jury deliberations, because really that was one of the big surprises out of the court today, how quickly the jury deliberated. They started this morning here in Los Angeles at around a little before 9 o'clock. This is just after about 2.5 hours of deliberations the day before. They broke for lunch this afternoon. They were back again deliberating after 1 o'clock. And then by shortly after 2 o'clock, they'd announced to the court that they had reached the verdict. And then it was about 4 o'clock that this verdict was actually read today. Let's just recap those charges. Involuntary manslaughter for Johannes Mehserle. He could face a 2 to 4 year prison sentence. On top of that, there was a gun enhancement added. With that, that would be a consecutive sentence of anywhere between 3, 4, or 10 years. Now, really, there was no emotion out of Johannes Mehserle in court today. He sat at the defense table. He looked straight ahead. There were no tears. There was no interaction with his lawyers. The only emotion he really made was when he was being led out of this courtroom in handcuffs. He turned to his family, his mother, his father, his sister, who were sitting there in the front row, and he appeared to mouth to them, "I love you guys." There was a ton of emotion from his father. He was sobbing as this verdict was read. As for Oscar Grant's family, they were sitting on the other side of the courtroom before this verdict was read. His mother was praying very loudly, holding hands with her family and friend who were sitting next to her as the involuntary manslaughter charge was read by the court clerk, Wanda Johnson was furious. You could see the anger on her face. This was not the verdict, the outcome that they had been hoping for. One juror was crying as the verdict was read today. This was a packed courtroom. There were 20 or so armed sheriff's deputies inside. We did hear after the court verdict was read from the family. Let's hear from Wanda Johnson and Cephas Johnson, her brother, Oscar Grant's uncle, who spoke today just after this verdict was read here in Los Angeles.
I still remember what Dr. King said, that he had a dream. I believe that one day, as a nation of people, that you guys will not look at us according to the color or content of our skin, but that we will be treated right as a people. And my son was murdered. He was murdered. He was murdered. He was murdered. My son was murdered. And the law has not held the officer accountable the way that he should have been held accountable. And I look at this, and I just say, like my brother said to any other family who goes through this, do not give up. Do not give up. Even though the system will fail us and let us down, God will never fail us, nor will he let us down. And I will trust in him until I die.
Many African Americans in all the communities across the United States, as well as Hispanic Americans all around this country, have been taking a look at this case in hopes that we can see the system work on behalf of us. And as we have come to notice, and we as a family has been slapped in the face by this system that has denied us the right to true justice. We truly do not blame the jury, but we blame the so.
Now again, the family is calling this verdict a slap in the face. They say that talking about it is almost too difficult to do this afternoon. They say the jury reached a compromise verdict, that they felt like they had to compromise to convict this former BART officer, and that's what they did with an involuntary manslaughter conviction. One of the things that the family is angry about is the makeup of this jury. 8 women, 4 men, a mostly white and Latino jury, 1 Asian woman. They say the makeup of this jury definitely made a difference. There were no African Americans on this panel. This afternoon we also heard from the family's lawyer, John Burris, who is representing the Grant family in a civil suit against BART. It's the first time that we've heard from him since this trial started over 3 weeks ago, because he, like the other lawyers in this case, were under a gag order and not allowed to speak to the media. He said there is some sense of vindication, a very minor one, because rarely do you ever see an officer convicted for an on-duty killing, and that was the case here. We will not be hearing from Mike Raines, the defense lawyer. We found that out this afternoon. Nor will we be hearing from any of the jurors in this case. The judge has said that he was too concerned for their safety to extend an invitation for them to speak to the media. We are live this evening in downtown Los Angeles. Cecilia Vega, ABC 7 News.